If a man misses the mark, the whole community will suffer from that. Let's help this woman and these kids raise up this man. There is no shade here anymore. Now we need fathers to rise up. We need them to come to the party. We need them to take a bold stand and forget what society is saying. We find our brothers in wrong circles because in those circles, fewer men speak about real issues. Very fewer men speak about hard-hitting issues. Fewer men will tell you, umfazi akashaya. A man raised by a father and a mother portrays more confidence and to a degree knows how to handle a woman or a lady, if I should call it that. And it may vary with people, just as it did with me. I know that fewer men talk about hard-hitting issues, but we want to get into that. And we're going to use this book to guide us, to propel us, to get us to heights where we can have conversations that are real. So we can even pass the baton, not only to our kids, but we have young stars who want to assume the position of marriage. But because marriage has been placed in a very dark light, people don't want to assume that position. I'm not saying everyone should get married, but if you do get married, you're obviously going to become a father. But now being raised without a father has its own traumas. But life doesn't end there. In fact, life can begin there. Good day, everybody. It's your boy Lebohang Motsoeneng, and I'm here with a new episode, a new baby on the block, Restore Men to Fathers. That's how we go about. We are all about restoring families. We are all about restoring men and bringing men to their true self, which is being fathers. Indeed, there are many fathers, but we need true fathers to rise up. And with this podcast, our aims and objectives are very simple. We want to make sure that we get everybody involved. We want to get granny involved. We want to get auntie involved, rather. We want to get papa involved. We want to get mama involved, even the kids involved. As you can see on the logo of our podcast, which is actually after a book that is being authored by Apostle T.C. Sono, it shows a family, the mother, the kids. In fact, these are the kids, the mother on this side, and the tree here represent the father. And many men are torn apart. Many men have stories that are untold. And we have the children and the wives or the mothers dealing with the backlash, because if men are not speaking, men will end up becoming animals. Well, I haven't become an animal. I don't wish to become one. But my heart is sore for the men who have resorted to doing things that are ungodly in order to try to get their point of view across. And I believe at the earliest point of life, we have to address certain things. So Restore Men to Fathers aims to bring that dialogue within the household, bring that dialogue within the community where we can have these topics. You know, we know we have stigmas that men are dogs. We have stigmas about not a must, you know, and I respect everybody's views because everyone tells their story the best way they know how. And with that said, it's almost easy to pick sides, but I don't want you to pick sides. I want us to get to the root cause of every issue we have in society. I can tell you one thing: any community that has very few or little men in that area or in that community, that's a community that's suffering the most. Women should not have to rise up and start up communities where they want to defend themselves against men. Instead, us men, we're supposed to defend women, regardless of whether we have any interest in them or not. The mere fact that a girl child has to be raised in a community because we value that human life, and having to have all these discords or having all these teams that are built up in society where people have to pick sides, that divide should come to an end. We need to build our societies. We need to go back to ancient times, and I'm aware that, yes, there were abusive men. And I'm aware that even if our grannies stuck around in the marriages, it wasn't because they wished to. Maybe that's all they knew. But there's a certain way we perceived them. We perceived them as strong people. We perceived marriages from the past to be long-lasting. But when you look at marriages in latter days, people get married for a month, 2 months, a year, and they're done. And we don't know what is the cause of that. Could be all sorts of things. Could be promiscuity. Could be all sorts of things. But I want us to peel off the skin and engage in real talk. And real talk will be based on true events, not just thumb-sucking ideas, hoping it trickles into the internet and people like it or it goes viral. No, it's about us dealing with serious issues. This is a call to men becoming fathers. And I myself had to come to the realization that having kids doesn't necessarily make me a father, but being present, relating to them, and to an extent, if push comes to shove, you go back to memory lane and look at the picture of marriage. A daughter will be accompanied by their father. The father will give the daughter's hand in marriage to the groom. It's a sign of a baton. As I treated my daughter, treat her as such as well. But then we turn tables around, whether be it I have a bad history or she has a bad history. Daddy could have been abusive, we don't know. My daddy could have been abusive, might be so. Or daddy could have maybe absconded and just assumed a fatherly position elsewhere except for in my life. Now, in my case, I was not raised by my biological father, but I was raised by a man who truly loved me, a man who I dearly respect. He's late, of course, and he did all he could, young as he was, to raise me. And I didn't know until his passing that he was not my real father. But he sure did hide that whole stepfather picture. I denied it, but I had to accept it because of conversations within the family. People would tell you stories. People would tell you that, no, he's only got 2 kids. He's only got 3 kids, and your name is not mentioned. Then you come to that realization that, oh, you are truly not of this family. Now, being raised without a father has its own traumas, but life doesn't end there. In fact, life can begin there, and not having someone to either mimic, because being a man in my home now, my kids will mimic me in their own homes, meaning that they hold me to a very high standard. And as they hold me to a high standard, I need to come to the party. I no longer live for me, but I live for them. And I can imagine if I'm not present and I'm not in the role of a father, in the very substratum of who a man is, the very foundational idea that God had of a father. The same way we call God Father, that's how our kids should call us Father and not just Dad, But obviously, that's open for argument, But if I'm absent or I'm not present with them, both physically, mentally, and further spiritually, that leaves a gap. And that gap that's left, somebody's going to take over. Someone's going to fill in those shoes and teach my kids something that I didn't teach them because I wasn't present enough to portray that lifestyle. So we're dealing with a lot of things. I'm not saying I'm a bad case, but there could be bad cases. As we go along on our journey of restoring men to fathers, we are going to have guests who are going to relate their stories and how they came out of the cracks, how they managed to raise families, not having a father to teach them how to. I mean, it's so distorted. I know for one, I use a surname that is not even from my father, my biological father's side of the family. I'm using my mother's surname. There isn't a sense of pride on my part, but I cannot hold myself to a corner because that didn't happen for me, that I get my father's surname. But now I'm marrying somebody and they have to take my mother's surname as well. I hope you're getting me. I'm trying to say, how is it that ngikhulisa umuzi kababa when I'm using my mother's surname? Not that I'm discrediting ukhuliswa umama. For argument's sake, if my dad was dead, then what? But now that he was alive and only later on passed on, the fact that he wasn't present in my life left many questions, and part of those questions became actions. Part of those actions became conversations. Part of those conversations became either rejections or acceptance. A man raised by a father and a mother portrays more confidence and to a degree knows how to handle a woman or a lady, if I should call it that. And it may vary with people, just as it did with me. I, for one, have never laid a hand on a woman. That's because I was taught well. Truth is, there was no father to actually portray how a woman is to be treated. But I do remember my dad would actually accompany my mom to church. Then he'd go and hang out with his friends. You know, he did that. He took care of the household. He made sure that we had a roof over our heads. He encouraged education. He wanted us to go to school. In fact, when he passed on, it was just after he had accompanied me and my brother to school. And he was so pro-school because he himself was educated. And for the greater part, that much I respect about him. I respect how he treated my mom. I respect how he made sure that we had a roof over our heads. Unfortunately, I was too young to actually figure things out in such a manner or in a way that I would know that, oh, this is how he treats my mom. But now that I'm older, I now realize that there's a missing piece in the puzzle. Now I'm only starting to learn how to treat my wife in a particular way that is more suitable because I've given my life to Christ. And the values that are being taught where I fellowship, where I submit, they taught me to actually become a person who's sensitive, but who doesn't lose his position as a man. And I know many people are going through a lot. We find our brothers in wrong circles because in those circles, fewer men speak about real issues. Very fewer men speak about hard-hitting issues. Fewer men will tell you, umfazi akashaywa. And fewer men would tell you, ukuthi ntwana sechayile no, vaya ekhaya, ifro ikumele. It's almost like the transition of becoming a man, it's merely just jumping into becoming a boy. and we forget that we become fathers. Remember when I started off, I made the analogy of a father giving their daughter in marriage, the daughter's hand in marriage to the groom. We assume that position. I've become my wife's father, not because I'm going to father her, but I need to uphold the position that her father held in her life. I need to do the same for her. I didn't pick up from the streets. She came from a home, a family, and coming from that point, or coming from that background, I can't now mistreat her when she comes from somewhere, So I know that fewer men talk about hard-hitting issues, but we want to get into that. And we're going to use this book to guide us, to propel us, to get us to heights where we can have conversations that are real. So we can even pass the baton not only to our kids, but we have young stars who want to assume the position of marriage. But because marriage has been placed in a very dark light, people don't want to assume that position. I'm not saying everyone should get married, but if you do get married, you're obviously going to become a father. But if it does happen that you raise your kids and there is no woman there, you are still a father. Now, I might be controversial. I've heard women say things like, bengu baba, ngu mama at the same time. Poetically, it sounds good. Philosophically, it sounds, it sounds up there. But it's not realistic. No one can replace a father. And hence, we need to raise men to become fathers. I, as a father, cannot be a mother to my kids if my wife is no more. But I can only be their father. And those gender roles are important. And we have let our desires to fly out the window and cause a lot of chaos in society. But I bless God that we have this book as a guide. And in my next episode, I definitely will have the author with me, Apostle Tsakani Sono. She will actually give us nuggets on how she came about to giving us a narration of how she grew up and why specifically restore men into fathers. And from there, it will be easy for us to really dig deep in. But as an introduction to the space of podcast and an introduction to the space of lifting up men, together with other podcasts all over the world that are working to build men, I mean, really, Indoda must become a father. It's enough that Samadota, but let's become fathers, even if you don't have children. But let's become fathers. Let us reach out and become a father to our nephews and nieces. Let us become fathers even to our neighbors' children, We do know of homes that don't have anyone who is a male figure. Even if Umalumo corner, but we know Umalumo is about his business. Umalumo is about his nice lifestyle. He's about partying and changing women, or he's about leaving maybe the house and coming back after 2 months. But Osele Kaya, what happens to them, And being a father means extending that hand. I mean, God is a father to the fatherless. Now, who are we as men if we are not as God is to our children and our neighbors' children, our village's children, So restoring men to fathers is bringing us back to that position whereby we move from being selfish. We move from being just about us or about me and my kids and extending the hand to another child who must grow up and become somebody in society, maybe a daughter, maybe a boy child. But both these genders do need a father figure. And for daughters, it may be even worse because women tend to be given to anyone whom they feel love from or protection from. Well, obviously, it's not every woman. There are women who don't do that. But for the cases that we've come across, we do have women who have given themselves up to strangers because they are seeking that fatherly love. But if I as a uncle or I as a brother would do that for them, they wouldn't have to go to the extent of finding somebody else to do that for them, And that's what we need to do as fathers, I'm happy that you are a man. I'm happy that you are doing the most. But let's stretch. Let's reach out our hand even to that neighbor whom you know ukuthi at some point akudliwe ekhaya. You don't want the daughters to resort to prostitution because there's no food endlini. We don't want the young boys to resort to robbery and ending up in prison or dead, or dead because of there's no father figure. I know for one, the men in my life did not pour into me positively. I know that for a fact. As offensive as it may sound to them, but even they themselves can sit down and question themselves, did we pour in positively or negatively into his life? Now, I make it a point when I meet young men, whether at a barber shop or anywhere, I want to pour into them, not impose myself, but pour into them that they should have the edge to decide if this is for me or not for me. But one day they will sit down, whether after making a bad decision or a good decision, and say, but there was this other man who spoke to me in such a way, and had I taken what he told me, I would be somewhere else. Or let me change now, because it's never too late, So Restore Men to Fathers is a passion project, basically. It doesn't span from just sitting on couches or chairs in front of cameras and lights, but it goes into the community. We are partnered with Emuseni Foundation, and we have outreach programs where we go into communities. We speak to those households where there aren't fathers. We speak to that household where the father might be going through a traumatic experience, or maybe they are mistreating their own family because of the traumatic experiences they had growing up, because everything has a root cause. Let's just be fair. No one wakes up and says, I want to be a monster. No mother wakes up and says, I want to leave my kids and I'm just going to go drink and sleep with any man I meet. Nobody does that just by a twinkle of an eye. No, it stems deeper. And that's what we need to address. Obviously, I'll have women as guests. I'll have men as guests. But I also have youngsters as guests as well. And we'll have these conversations where we dig deep and we speak of issues and matters. We have those people in our circles. I'm saying to us as a community, globally, if you're watching this and you bump into this, take some time, sit down, listen in, identify in your community where you can reach out, identify where you could extend or stretch out your hand. And let's help this woman and these kids raise up this man. There is no shade here anymore. Now we need fathers to rise up. We need them to come to the party. We need them to take a bold stand and forget what society is saying. Yes, we have mistakes. Yes, we make those mistakes. But those mistakes don't sum up who we are. But when we take the stand of rising up from just being mere men and becoming fathers, then that's where the change happens. That's where we start talking. That's where we start impacting our communities positively. I promise you one thing. If a man misses the mark, the whole community will suffer from that. We have men who abuse their children. This stems from somewhere. We have men who beat up their wives. This stems from somewhere. Why are we not talking about all those things? But we're not going to focus only on the negatives. We'll also focus on the positives, where we have men who came from nothing, but they are raising a healthy community or healthy family without anything provided for them to become better men. But they had to tune into themselves to become that. I aspired to be that. I truly aspired to become a better man. But I realized there's a graduation. You matriculate from just being a man and you become a father. It goes deeper. You become a father. Being a father says, I don't abuse, I don't molest my children, I don't beat my children, I don't beat my wife. I uphold my integrity in society. I keep my community safe. I desired that for myself. And I know there are few, or maybe there could be many men, but we need to hear your voices. We need to hear your stories. So we're going to have conversations about this. I know this sounds deep. It sounds all mushy and stuff, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is for us to have that dialogue and have that conversation. And we are going to come right. We want to build society. The fall of man happened in the Garden of Eden, but the rising of a man happened in the Garden of Gethsemane. So we are going back to Gethsemane to let that man rise up and become a father. So you are going to link, or you're going to subscribe. You're going to click on the bell. You are going to follow. You're going to share. You're going to do everything that you need to do necessary to spread the good news. You're going to do everything necessary. I'm pleading with you. Let's have this conversation. I need you. If you have a story that you want to talk to us about, please write us. Write to us. We'll have a conversation with you. Possibly we'll have you as our guest, and we build this nation of ours. We build this world and make it a better place. With that said, thank you so much for your time, and we'll meet next time for the next episode. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be so serious, but I'm probably going to crack jokes, because becoming a father means that you must make the environment conducive for growth as well. So this is an introduction. We're going to be bubbly. It's going to be vibes. Don't worry. It's going to be vibes, We're going to be cool. So thank you so much. Keep well and good night. Ciao.